Every one of us has unhealed wounds and traumas that you don't even know about, and often these traumas we hold on to can manifest in different ways, such as certain health conditions.
It should be, in my opinion, your life's #1 devotion. Your life's #1 priority is to go heal those wounds, because it will literally change everything about your life.
And they're probably holding you back from having perfect relationships, the best health and energy, financial freedom, and the life of abundance that you crave.
Sometimes in life, you have to go through things to experience the worst kind of pain, the worst kind of letdown, the worst kind of suffering, to realize once and for all that you never want to live in the energy of that kind of suffering, or never want to give that kind of suffering to another human being ever again.
So, what is the secret for true success and personal fulfillment in these areas? How do we become less busy, more healthy and wealthy, find deeper love and connection in our relationships, or stop our limiting beliefs? World-leading life coach and spiritual leader Danny Morel has the answers.
Part of the awakening process is difficult in that you have to be ready to let go of everything that you've built prior to awakening. Because prior to awakening, you were operating from your limited self, based off of your limited perspective, based off of what the outside world told you was possible for you or not. And what happens when you awaken is you start to realize, wait a minute, I am the creator of my life.
Welcome to the Health Optimization Podcast. I'm Tim Gray, the UK's leading biohacker. This podcast is all about gaining actionable advice from the world's top experts and sharing new breakthroughs in nature, biohacking, technology, and longevity research to help you live longer and happier. Having a life of abundance may sound woo-woo, but it isn't. It isn't about hustling more, working yourself to death, or putting your relationships on hold like everyone seems to think. Abundance is more than just money. It's about having success and everything you want across all elements of your life. Your health, your wealth, your relationships, your environment, and your purpose. You may have heard of manifestation and it may sound like nonsense to you, but the frequency and the energy we put out in the world is so important. You attract whatever you give your energy to. That's why we often vibe or resonate with certain people, but not with others. Some people stay close and others rattle away. If you're sick of the hustle, of chasing goals that seem to be impossible to achieve, if you're tired of toxic relationships, annoyed with getting sick, or of constantly getting in your own way, this episode is for you, I promise. To be honest, I could not wait to have Danny on the podcast because we haven't hung out for a whole year. Through a variety of huge events and epic courses, Danny Morel has guided millions, literally millions of people to heal and transform their lives, helping them to awaken to their highest purpose, potential, and power. He is also the host of 2 podcasts, which I listen to both personally. The Higher Self podcast is dedicated to guiding you through the journey of discovering your highest purpose, passion, and potential in life. And the other is Finding the One. And it's all about, well, you guessed, finding the one. This conversation is full of actionable advice that will cause many aha moments. If you're ready to do some real self-work, find your purpose and grow, as Danny says, awaken, heal, and transform, well, let's get stuck in. So it's great to have you on the podcast, especially after we recorded on yours last year, pretty much a year ago. So guys, have a look at the show notes if you want to see that episode. That's where me and Danny first met. And we talk about biohacking and spirituality and things like that. So it's a really fun episode. So for those that are listening today that don't know you, how would you define what you do and who you are?
Yeah, that's I love that because I think I define myself as a human being, just a human being that went deep into the journey of discovering who he was and healing the parts of his mind and his energy and his body that were no longer serving him. And then now I just help other people to do the same thing. And I think the payoff in that, like once you heal, once you return to your heart, the payoff is that money becomes easier, relationships become easier, health becomes easier, and you get to live a life based off of, what your dreams are, really.
Lovely answer.
Yeah, thank you.
So how did you begin this?
Yeah, everything started for me when my mom passed away. My mom passed away, and normally what happens to us is it takes, a death, an illness, loss of your income, to bring us to our knees and to help us get to a place where we realize, A, we're not happy, B, we're chasing in life, and C, we're not living to our fullest potential, and based off of what matters, because the world will constantly tell you that in order to live to your fullest potential, you need to accomplish something. You need to look a certain way. You need to be in a certain type of relationship, right? And so from the outside looking in, I had it all. I had a big business, a big house, a family, the whole thing. But on the inside, I was really unhappy. Really, really unhappy. And here's the worst part, Tim. I didn't even know it. I didn't even know or realize that being unhappy was a thing. You get so used to operating in the space of your mind and in your energy a certain way that you just think that just becomes normal life, And everything shifted for me when my mom passed away. And that's when my spiritual journey began, really.
Interesting. It's funny how, as you were saying that, I thought back to me being 22 and living in an apartment. And I remember a specific place I was standing, just walking into the bathroom to go and brush my teeth. And I was like, and this is Matrix, I guess, Matrix-ish years. It's like, I feel like I'm stuck in the Matrix. I feel like I'm just doing the same routine patterns every day, just not actually thriving. I was enjoying what I was doing, but again, similar feeling to that is like not getting to my full potential, but just didn't know. And I think with the rise of social media and the interconnectedness of us as humans and the amount of information that we now have access to, it's like more and more people are waking up.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely.
So tell us about what abundance is and what it means to awaken specifically.
Abundance is, I think, what we are. It's our birthright. Abundance is a frequency that you get to tap into that allows you to create a life based off of, the infinite abundance and possibility that is out there. And I think most people think of abundance as, financial, but I think it's creating a life where we get to sit down and hang out and do what we want every day and helping other people. Abundance could look a lot of different ways, quite frankly. It could be, yes, financial. As a matter of fact, I think it is financial, but also it needs to be being an abundant relationship, because I think too many people are stuck in relationships that don't fulfill them, don't make them happy. And they just get stuck in a pattern because they see that other people are in relationships and in finances and in health that cause them to not be happy. And so we think that the way society lives is normal, right? And so then we just go out based off of the energy and the frequency that society is in, and we go out and recreate from that frequency. I think abundance and awakening in particular is escaping that energy, escaping that frequency to find the truth of who we are, awakening to that reality. And then from that new reality, going deep, letting go of what no longer serves you, letting go of all the trauma, all the pain, all the limited thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And then once you get back to this space of the truth of who you are, creating a life based off of what makes you happy. I think that's abundance.
I wholeheartedly agree. I want to share something about my personal life now because it's highly relevant. And I'll touch on why it's so amazing that we're recording today in a little while. But one of the things with my girlfriend of, 4.5-ish months is that she works in London. She commutes in on the underground every day and works 9 to 5. And here I am recording podcasts, traveling the world, hanging around with amazing people and learning lots of cool stuff, looking like I'm not working, even though I am, but it's my passion and I love it. And I was in Croatia for the last week, partly on business, partly, for fun. And she didn't have the flexibility to be able to come.
Sure.
She's like, it's not fair that here I am working, being on the tube, coming into work every day. And there you are, in the sun on boats and stuff. And I'm like, but that's how I've built my life. And in that moment, I was like, she's starting to get it. she's starting to get it.
Sure.
As in, like, you do not need that. You can actually build a life of the things that you love and be paid for it and live in abundance. And for me, it was a massive moment because it's just like that tiny little snippet of she's getting it.
It's interesting you bring that up. I just got goosebumps because those are the moments that like really can change someone's life. And quite frankly, Tim, like we never know why people come into our lives. But in this moment, I believe that based off of what you just said, you came into her life because her future self called you in to show her what was possible. And that's a really beautiful thing. I'm thinking about my brother-in-law right now who was working at one of the, like, I don't know the name of the company, but it's like one of the top 5, top 4, top 3 tech companies in the world. And he just had a son right about the same time that we had our daughter. And, life was great until he had that son. And when he had his son, he started to realize, like, I want more flexibility because he was traveling all over the world. And sure enough, he quit his job and now he's helping my in-laws to further their eyeglass company. It's really beautiful to see. But those are the moments where it's like the life that you've built. I like to say it this way. It's like part of the awakening process is difficult in that you have to be ready to let go of everything that you've built prior to awakening. Because prior to awakening, you were operating from your limited self based off of your limited perspective, based off of what the outside world told you was possible for you or not. And what happens when you awaken is you start to realize, wait a minute, like I am the creator of my life. And everything I've been creating up until this point has been based off of my limited thoughts, limited feelings, limited emotions, and literally the limited energy that has been trapped in my body. That energy has literally been sending out a signal saying, please bring me back the life that I feel I deserve based off of the inside. Well, when you awaken, get ready because it gets a little bumpy. It gets a little bumpy because you've got to be able to look at that life and go, okay, what do I want? Do I want to continue living this life that I've been living? Nothing wrong. There's no wrong or right? Or could I allow a space within myself to think of and feel into what I really want my life to be like? And that's when the process gets very transformative.
I got goosebumps then as you're saying that because it reminded me back for 2017, a friend of mine, a new friend said, come to this retreat in Croatia. It's called Baby Bathwater. You may or may not have heard of Baby Bathwater, which is all founders and entrepreneurs that meet on an island and, spend a week of learning stuff and hanging out. It's not a mastermind. It's kind of like a nice retreat.
Beautiful.
And I said, I can't get away from my marketing agency. I just can't. It needs me in the office. And I said, I can't have a week, not being in the office. And he said, just do it. Trust me, come along. And I was like, okay, I'll take my laptop. The office can do without me. And then that's where I actually met Vishen from Mind Valley for the first time. And he said, so Tim, what do you do? And I said, I'm a biohacker. He said, where are you going with that? And I said, I have no idea. He said, well, I had dinner with Ben Greenfield the other week and, we were talking about this and that and the other. And I was like, it's actually where I got the idea to do the summit. And how it progressed from that moment because I was dragged out of my reality of being in an office, which I had done for 20 years.
That's right.
Seeing how entrepreneurs or people with different thinking minds are on an island creating. And that's really why we are here today. So that's why I got goosebumps as you were saying that, because it really is an awakening.
And I want to say something. If you're out there and you're listening to this and you're working in a 9 to 5, I want to say, you know what? Like, God bless you. Seriously. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, we live in a society today where everyone is trying to, based off of their ego, make themselves right and you wrong. And I don't think you need to participate in that, right? I think that you get to understand that where you are in your life is exactly where you are meant to be based off of your life's journey. However, I think that you get to look at the fact that you say to yourself, I can't do this or I can't do that. And you get to reframe that and understand that can't is actually, I choose not to, right? And if I could give anybody advice, it's that my number one priority in life, like since I was 18 years old, was I never wanted to say, I can't. That's it. That's it. If you just make one goal in life, one goal, to never have to use the words, I can't. I can't go spend time with my children. I can't go fly and travel the way that I want to. I can't provide for those that I love. I can't have the freedom to live life on my terms. If you just make one goal in life to never use the words, I can't, I think that's the most precious goal and the most precious gift that a human being can give themselves. Because watch what happens. Watch what happens when you have the courage to make that your life's priority. Sky's the limit. It's incredible.
Do you know what? The universe is a funny thing, and I don't want to sound woo-woo or anything, but it really is as like God places things to make you go, there is a higher thing going on here. Because last night, Simona and I, as my partner, were sitting down talking about something, and she said, I can't. I said, do not ever say you can't. I was like, you cannot say that. What I would say is, I haven't tried, or I haven't practiced enough, or whatever, but don't ever say you can't do something, because that's a limiting belief. And then you've just said exactly the same thing around about 12 hours later.
Yeah, that's wild.
And so it's really amazing.
You know what? It's just we get to choose to reframe, right? It's like, sometimes we work with people and they ask me, how do I let go of the mistakes that I've made in the past? And I say, by understanding that the word mistake literally is a human concept that was made up that doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist. I had an affair, and I'm bringing this up, literally with my son in the room right now. I had an affair, and when I had that affair, I was Mr. And I still am. I live a pretty correct life. I do the right things. So I was deeply ashamed of myself during that time, because that's something that I never in my life thought that I would ever go through, right? And, 6 months later, a year later, people would come to me and say, well, everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. And then, honest to God, Tim, inside of me, I would think, but I don't think it was a mistake. And I'm not saying this to encourage you to go do that. No, I'm saying that in my life's path, it literally was the key that unlocked the door of the cage that I had put myself in, where I wasn't honest with myself about what my truth was. And so then it wasn't a mistake. It was a lesson. Like if you could really understand and let go of, and go have a ceremony or a ritual, or go write on a piece of paper the word mistake and go burn it, or go send it off in the water, go do something, but never use that word ever again. And understand that everything is a perfect lesson taking you to your highest destination in life, if you allow yourself to see it that way.
One of my friends shared with me a few months ago that they had cheated on their partner, 8 years ago or whatever. And this person I hold to the highest regard. I'd never think this person would ever cheat. And I said, what did you learn from this? That I will never do it again. It's reinforced. It's something, a boundary that this person didn't have in place. And once they get to it, they're like, this isn't me.
I don't ever want to.
And I will never cheat because this isn't me. And sometimes you have to go through something to know it's not for you. Same as me in my early 20s. Same thing. Until you learn that boundary for yourself, you can't reinforce it sometimes. And sometimes we don't realize it's so important. It's the same as... So I get that. It really makes sense about the reframing of it as well. Like
Sure.
The NLP adage is no such thing as failure, just feedback, which
That's
is
it.
more of a technical term, I guess.
And also what I'd love to invite your listeners to potentially reflect on is that's when pain becomes a gift. Sometimes in life, you have to go through things to experience the worst kind of pain, the worst kind of let down, the worst kind of suffering, both suffering that you went through and suffering that you caused, to realize once and for all that you never want to live in the energy of that kind of suffering, or never want to give that kind of suffering to another human being ever again. And that's when, for those of us that have had affairs or that have cheated on people, if you open your heart to understanding both the person that caused the pain and the person that received the pain, right? If you can open your heart to understand that behind every bit of pain, there is a lesson, then that's when the pain becomes a teacher. And that's when there's a gift behind the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I tell people all the time is that, even if you went through a bad relationship, for example, sometimes bad relationships are our greatest teachers because at bare minimum, they teach you what you no longer want in life. And so therefore you get to thank it,
Actually, I agree. I went through a really nasty breakup and I was in a toxic relationship that I was doing so hard. And again, finding the One podcast really helped me with this actually, but I was being treated very badly and I was trying to be the man, see through it, say, I choose you, nothing's going to get in the way. And it was a trauma bond.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible breakup. And it's like, on reflection, and it made me hit rock bottom, really did. But the thing is like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And I'm just like, actually, it turned me into being the best version of me. And so it was horrible at the time, but I was like, what is this trying to teach me? Why can't I let go of this? So I went to see an inner child specialist and I saw a cognitive hypnotherapist and worked with them both and then started journaling every day and drilling into these things and I've actually found out things from my childhood that I would never have found out if I hadn't gone through the breakup. And I let go of it. And then actually I become the best version of myself. And instead of being someone that's not as outspoken in situations because I wouldn't want to be rejected, actually I understand it and I no longer care. And so I've turned something that was horrendous, like really rock bottom, into something fantastic. And now my partner that I'm with now, I am who I am today because of that. And I'm so ever grateful for it. In fact, I was doing a journey, let's say, fairly recently, and I felt so connected with God. It was a very strange, profound experience, actually. And I just looked up and said, thank you, God, for this lesson. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, I cannot believe how important this was for me in my journey. So to your point is you have to sometimes be broken to be able to build back and flourish. So it really resonates with me. It's very strange timing of you saying this. So Finding the One podcast I want to touch on is very raw and wonderful of your journey and Jen. And as I mentioned earlier on, when I met Simona, my partner, she was already a fan of yours and she didn't know that we had recorded together or anything. And she said, you've got to watch this podcast.
I heard she made you watch it is what I heard.
Well, yeah, she did the first episode for sure. She was like, I want you to watch this. But it made me understand the level of communication that she enjoyed, but she wasn't in a place to actually be in that yet. So it kind of opened the door and it told me this is the level of communication that Simona needs or craves in a relationship, but isn't quite there herself. So I watched it and actually it really helped me open up because it was like a script for what my relationship needed. And it's helped us have such a deep, interesting bond. And I feel like it's evolved as your podcast has gone through. So, I really want to thank you publicly for what it's done for my relationship, but also for everyone that's listening today. Like if you're trying to find yourself or trying to connect deeper with your partner, I really recommend Finding the One podcast. And I'm pretty sure Simona's going to be smiling right now because it's, but I really think that communication is key. Perception is everything. And if you and your partner aren't connecting as deeply as, you would want to, I recommend you starting episode 1 of Finding the One. And this isn't a plug for his podcast, by the way. We haven't discussed this.
No, I'll plug it and I'll say it. We just started it. The intention behind it is, we both went on such a deep spiritual journey with ourselves. And, for me, I was always looking for the one. I was always looking for the dream partner, right? And the dream partner came, but not until I realized that the journey was all about finding the one in me. And so, I think one day we were just laying in bed and we were like, a lot of people are out there struggling in relationships right now. And we should just start a podcast. And sure enough, I think every week we just have a raw, real conversation. There is nothing off the books. There's nothing we don't talk about, nothing, and we do that to help open up communications in the lives of other couples. And it seems to be helping people.
So. Oh, it's amazing. There's nothing like it. I'm not saying this because you're in the room. There is nothing like it. Like, there's a couple of things that really resonated with me from the podcast, which I just want to touch on quickly. Was early days for you guys, and you had a trip, and it was like you both talking about the things that were going through your minds and the insecurities and the things that you weren't sure about with your partner and stuff. And it's just like to be at that level of communication with your partner. I resented you in this moment because, for instance, it's just like, and I'm so happy to be able to say I have this level of communication in my relationship. We're talking through something yesterday, and I was like, I want to talk to you. I really want to touch on this. I want this to be, this level, and we can't get cross, we can't get emotional. I really just want to cover this topic because it's important to me. Sure. And it was just like almost like we were on MDMA together, where your hearts are open and connected, and it's just like
beautiful.
Pure, So it really is fantastic. This podcast, I can't talk about it enough, which takes me on to the point. You talk about retreats or journeys and some of the things you've worked through on journeys. Mm-hmm. I'd love you to share a little bit about this in your journey and what others could expect from doing something similar.
Like with medicine?
Plant medicine.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Well, how have you found that it's helped you the most?
Sometimes I have to be careful with my passion because and the way that I speak, because I come off as if, there is only like one way to do things. So that's the caveat to what I'm about to say. But I don't believe that a human being in this time in history could become their highest version of themselves without, at one point in their life, sitting with plant medicine. And I say that because just look at society. Look at the way we are all disconnected right now. Look at how often we're on our cell phones. Look at how much the worlds of politics and religion, without us knowing it, are tapping into and touching our deepest fears. I think COVID, for example, was energetically the collective consciousness of fear in all of us, creating something to help profit off of us. Quite frankly, like we made it. We created it, And I think if you look at it, COVID was literally the embodiment of fear, guilt, manipulation, and quite frankly, caused anxiety in people because they haven't mastered the three energies of human mastery, which is money, food, and sex or relationships, right? And I think it was a big wake-up call. I think, like I said earlier, we're in a state in society where everyone wants to be right and wants to make everyone else wrong. So when it comes to COVID, people wanted to make each other right or wrong for taking the shot or not taking the shot. I'd like to offer for you to transcend right or wrong. And I'd like to offer for you to understand what COVID was. That it was literally the embodiment of fear in each and every one of us. And we created it as an opportunity to reflect back on us where we're at in our life's journey.
Yeah.
And if you were in a place where you were in your life's journey, where you created your life in a capacity where you could self-sustain anything that happened in the outside world, then that put you in a position. Maybe it put you in a position where you didn't have to take the shot. Not that that's right or wrong. But if you were in your life in a position where fear was the dominating energy, and as a result of that, you were afraid to step into your truth and your greatness when it comes to your finances, which led you to pick or not be able to afford the greatest food available for your health. And there was a chance that something could have harmed your health and your life and your money. COVID hit you at every angle. And if you weren't in a position where you could fend for yourself based off of the fact that you created your life based off of your highest potential in life, maybe you had to. The question is not what did you do or not do regarding COVID. That's not the question. The question is if you created a business that made $85 billion, would you do it again? Because I would. I would. If I was that evil, I would. And so then the real question is, what are you going to do starting today so that when they decide to bring it back and run it again, you're no longer in a position where fear is in control of your life and the outside world can dictate your financial and physical well-being? That's the real question.
I agree with you about in terms of waking up. For instance, you see, I don't know if you heard of Dr. Aseem Malhotra, but he's a leading cardiologist in the UK. He was pro this particular jab at the time, and then he started seeing the problems popping up everywhere, and now he's not an advocate for it, and he's like, I would say, a whistleblower, or seriously going for it in terms of raising awareness. And so many people are saying, Big Pharma have had their time, and while it made them a lot of money now, and they're going to try everything to do it again, actually the consciousness is changing in terms of people realize that it's not just about that anymore.
Sure.
And so
it's
I
up
think,
to them.
Yeah,
it's up to us.
And I think the industry is aware of that as well. And they're trying to do everything they can to change it. But I think they're starting to lose their grip like the tobacco industry.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
Yeah.
So it's interesting about the consciousness. So I just want to move on from this back to the journeys side of things.
So what does the medicine, forgive me, what does the medicine and the journeys allow you to do? For me and for most of us, it takes you back into your life. It takes you into your past where you can see where were the moments that you left here and went into here. Where were the moments where you left love and went into fear? Where were the moments where your heart got locked up? Because when your heart gets locked up, what happens is your life gets locked up. You get locked away literally from the potential of receiving all that is available in life because you are now living in fear. And what does plant medicine, ayahuasca and mushrooms, what do those beautiful medicines do? Well, number one, what I don't believe I know the truth is that God left those medicines here on the planet for us when we were ready. For when we were ready to no longer have a locked up heart and a locked up life, and allow us to go back into the past and heal those parts of us so that we can be literally born again and start living life from not only love, but from all of life's possibilities. That's what I think the plant medicines are here to do. And I think they were purposefully left here by God, by the Creator, for when we as a human race were ready to awaken. And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because my mentor in cognitive hypnotherapy, Trevor, who I recorded with a few months ago, when I trained with him back in 2008, 2009, whatever, he was an atheist. And he would mention it quite frequently. And I was always, what's that about? He's very, very saying, there is no higher power. In fact, in terms of the neurological levels that we study in psychology and cognitive hypnotherapy, the top one is religion. The one below it is identity. He, in our training, removed spirituality or religion from the top and said the highest point is identity. Anyway, so when I asked him to speak at our summit one year, about cognitive hypnotherapy, he said, no. He said, because at the moment I'm exploring religion. I said, what happened? He said, well, I'd done a journey and I saw God. And he said, now I'm exploring that area. So beautiful. I don't want to talk about, so it's very, very interesting. And it's funny because, again, Simona, I'm going to bring up again because it's highly relevant, is from hearing your work and talking about this stuff on your podcast and some of the things that you've learned. So I really want to do the deep work. I really want to do the deep work.
She's here in London, right?
Yeah.
I have the perfect person for her when she's ready.
So, actually, we're going to go on a trip in a few weeks' time, literally, to do this. But it's just super. It's, I think, for instance, with your work, the amount of people that you've helped and the reach that you have, I'd like to say that someone that is completely outside from the health or spiritual space, such as Simona, is reaching them to say, actually, this is the time. So the awareness is growing.
I love that, man.
So yeah, I just want to share that sometimes people say, oh, Tim, you really helped me with my life, with my health and my life, and it's changed this, that, and the other. And I don't think when it's just a number on Instagram or a like or whatever, it doesn't hit you so much. But when you actually hear someone say,
yeah, I
thank
appreciate
you,
that. I
so,
appreciate that.
You know, so yeah, this is why I think these journeys are fantastic.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned putting our energy out to the universe, and this is often called manifestation, which, you know, does carry some opinions for people that are non-believers. But,
sure,
you know, what is manifestation and how does it work?
I'm at a place in life where I no longer like to label anything. And I say that because when we call manifestation a thing, what we're actually doing it is we're separating it from us. It's like this thing that I get to do, that I get to like tap into, that is separate from me. And what I now understand about manifestation is not only is it not separate from me, it literally is me. It is my ability to tap into the God energy that lives within me, that we were born with. We just forgot that we had, to create whatever I want in life to make me whole, happy, and complete. And every single human being has it. We're so confused right now, however, that we want to learn how to manifest. But there's nothing to learn because you were born with it. You are it. What you have to do is unlearn everything that taught you that you can't have whatever you want in life.
Interesting point, because as you're saying this, sometimes when something has a label, we can focus on it or realize we're doing the opposite.
Sure.
So I think in terms of manifestation, I mean, I agree, it is within us.
Sure.
But for instance, if someone's not good at, let's say, manifesting, you know, in terms of what they receive or what they get, and someone says, you should learn to manifest. Oh, what is manifestation? Oh, it's this. The thing is holding on to the label stops them from doing that because they're always looking for that, opposed to saying, I'm going to embody the things that manifestation is.
That's right.
And so it's I think sometimes we need a label to begin something, but then we need to let go of the label. You know,
I love that, Tim. I love that.
I would say the same with veganism, actually.
That's the same. Yeah, man.
It's like you can go vegan, and it's like, actually, my health gets better. Then at some point, you realize that the veganism was cutting out processed foods and hormone-riddled meat and all the crappy stuff, and your health flourishes from the plants. But then it goes, well, actually, I need more nutrients, and then you should add some stuff in. Have the label, understand the label, let go of the label, go for the health, which is the goal. And I would say the same with manifestation.
I have a funny story to tell you, actually. You're going to love this. So we spoke about this in my last podcast, in our podcast. Back then, I was like still in confusion. I was like coming out of veganism. If you don't know, I was a vegan for 3 years.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something funny. I went to my dentist the other day, and I had an issue in this gum up here. There was like a gap, like a, you know, when like they try to see how deep the space is, and it was just too deep. And Tim, they tried everything, everything. They created blood cells. They injected it in there. I had surgery. I had this, and nothing would help. And you know that in the last 6 months, I finally started eating meat again. And do you know that when they went in, they were like, oh my God, I can't believe it, but it got better. And I started thinking like, what the heck did I do different? And it was that I finally started eating meat again. I literally understand it as, while I was vegan, I was just not giving my body the nutrients that it needed in order to heal itself, quite frankly. Yeah. I mean, and I don't say that as, if you're a vegan, you're doing something wrong. I'm not making, I'm just sharing my story and an actual thing that happened to me, you know? And yeah, man, all I can say is that I
mean, what works for you might not work for someone else, and what works for someone else might not work for you. But I think if we, and not to go too much into the vegan diet or anything, but ancestrally, the strongest people could run and catch, and the weaker people didn't have the energy to be able to, and they relied on other people. I think that veganism works fantastically for some people. I think roughly around 5%. I also understand the ethical side of things, and
I do as well,
and I
man.
have no question against anyone that does it for that reason. But I also think you have a responsibility to look after your body and know
I
whether
think
or
that's
not.
the number one responsibility.
Yeah.
Because without that, you ain't here.
And if someone respects the animal's life more than their own, I'm wondering what they have to work through.
Well, yeah. And even when you look at it from the lens of spirituality, like I finally understood that the animal is here, when treated correctly and when nourished properly. And like I go to great lengths to find the best protein available. But it is here to provide me what I need in order to live life at my fullest. And then when I go, I'm gonna go return like right back into the earth to feed the earth, which feeds the animal, which feeds me. It's like it's the circle of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what Mufasa tried to teach Simba.
Yeah,
And then
totally.
we human beings in our genius ways try to create a way to like circumvent what God made perfectly.
So, I mean, I see it that animals go out and collect the nutrients, concentrate them, and then we have those concentrated so that we don't have to do all of that. And also our digestive system doesn't work quite the same.
Yeah.
So should we write down what we want from life? Or, have you got advice for anyone listening so that they can get to what they want?
Yes. I was just telling my son, Aaron, who's here in the room today, who he's been playing football, pardon me. We're here in London now. He's been playing football for a year and a half. And like my son is just like a gifted athlete. He's the kind of kid that like can do backflips and, he's just been playing the sport for a little bit, but he's literally out there. He's a good.
He's staying very humble right now, by the way. He's not smiling.
Oh no, he's a stud. He's a stud. But I was just telling him this morning, I said, Papi, all you have to do as a human being is just every morning when you wake up, visualize and feel exactly what it is that you want in life. And I said, you don't have to worry about how it happens. You just have to focus all of your energy on feeling as if it already happened. And if you can do that, that's all you have to do. If you can do that, then the right circumstances, in your case, the right coaches, the right people, the right opportunities will show up to get you the vision that you have for your life. Because in truth, it really isn't the universe. It is you in verse. In other words, it's everything that you think and feel inside of yourself about life is what you are calling in to your reality. You're the one creating your reality.
For sure. Life happens for us, not to us.
That's right.
So what are the biggest barriers stopping us from getting those lives that we want?
The biggest barrier stopping us from getting the life that we want is that we live in the mind and not the heart. We live in fear. We're constantly worried about what other people are going to think, how they're going to react to us, if they're going to like us or not, if they're going to approve us or not, if we look a certain way or not. Just look at society. It's terrible. You can't go through Instagram right now without seeing a guy who is desperately trying to get your approval or attention based off of how he looks, his clothes and his cars and his sunglasses. Always sunglasses because they hide the eyes, by the way. Yeah, they hide the truth of what's really going on inside. And you also can't go through Instagram without seeing a woman who is desperately trying to get your attention based off of the way that she looks, based off of her body. And we are lost as a society because essentially what we are telling ourselves nowadays as a society is that my life and the value of my life and the value that I have to offer to you as a society or to you as a potential partner is all based off of my outside. Well, what happens when that outside is gone? What happens when that business that is affording you that car and the clothes and the body parts nowadays, quite frankly, is all gone? What happens when that body no longer looks the way it currently looks because you have a child, which is normal? Ladies, it's normal, right? What happens? Like, look deep into that and understand the message that you are sharing with the world about what your life's value is. And allow that to permeate inside of you and help you to maybe start the process of awakening and returning to the truth, which is your value is found on the inside, not on the outside.
I love this. I love this. It's so true. People that get in cosmetic work need things to feel valuable in the world, that need to do these things should really feel that right now, because it's true. And it's often an indication of what someone's missing on the inside is what they have to have on the outside.
100%. And I say this, by the way, as a guy that was there. Like I lived that life. So oftentimes what happens, the mind, the small self, again, I'm not making you right or wrong. I'm offering a reflection. That is a truth. Just scroll through Instagram. It's all you see. People desperately trying to get your attention. My question is, why do you need people's attention? What's going on underneath that? And if you have the courage and the honesty to go, okay, wait a minute, what the fuck? Like, why do I need? But why? Just get ready, because that's the path your ego does not want you to go down. But it's the path that your heart needs you to go down in order for you to ever find true love, quite frankly, with yourself and with another partner.
And if you can't love yourself, you can't love another.
No, you can't.
Yeah, it's that self-acceptance versus others' acceptance.
Yeah.
I realized last year that until I could accept myself, I couldn't accept anyone else.
That's right.
And I had to learn by trying to accept someone else.
Yeah.
And I couldn't until I'd accepted myself. And that was actually in a journey, medicine journey.
Absolutely. Because your mind is always judgmental. Your mind will always criticize. Your mind will always look at what's wrong in another person. And you could be in a relationship 10, 15, 20 years and still be living in your mind. And this is why I call this a mind mate. You can't ever be in real love until you learn to stop being so judgmental, to stop being so critical, to stop looking at always what's wrong with another person or how it's someone else's fault. You'll never find love that way. The only way to find love is to start looking within and start understanding that the only reason that you're judgmental with someone else is because you're secretly, deeply, underneath it all, judgmental with yourself.
Yes, it's a very deep point. I'm loving it. It's so good. So how can someone listening identify and bring awareness to the areas that are holding them back based on what we've just been?
Go look in the mirror. Go look in the mirror. I remember when I did this, I couldn't do it. I was afraid to do it. My eyes would jump back and forth. I would try to avoid. My mind would go crazy. And I remember like realizing, okay, we have an issue. If I can't look at myself in the mirror, we have an issue. That's when my journey, that's when it really got deep. Go look in the mirror.
It's crazy you said this, because let's say I was experimenting with being high with something, and I went to reach for something off the shelf, and there's a mirror next to the shelf. And I reached over like this, and I looked in the mirror at myself, and I became judgmental. And I was like, look at you, you're high.
You see?
And I stood there, and I had my arm out still. It must have been 15 or 20 minutes. I was it was pretty high.
Yeah, man.
And I was looking at myself, and I just couldn't stop staring at myself. And I was judging, and to the point where actually I felt like my judgmentalness of myself kind of just melted down into the ground, and I suddenly accepted myself. That was the time actually I learned to accept myself.
Accept yourself for being high.
Yeah.
It's okay, you're high.
And it's just like,
there's nothing wrong with being high if you chose to be high.
I'm like, dude, you accept yourself. You don't have to be anything other than what you are.
That's
and
right.
Just keep on growing.
That's right.
And it was that moment that actually changed my relationships, my friendships, everything. So you say, look in the mirror.
Everything.
But I also think that, that mirror could be a partner. Because as you know, a trusted partner that you're deep and intimate with, as you and Jen talk about on the podcast, it's a mirror for you. And you go, actually, you're triggering me right now. Thank you for this mirror. And then helps you do some reflection work. Or you can avoid that partner that triggers you and avoid working on the things. So a physical mirror or a metaphorical mirror.
What I've found is that anyone who triggers you is normally triggering a part of you that you have yet to work on or heal. Anything that someone else says that bothers you, that causes you to get a reaction, right? It's for a reason. Because when you're living in the frequency of peace, nothing that anyone says can do anything to you. It no longer has an effect on you, right? And that's a deep process. It's a real deep journey to get to that frequency, but it's available to us. And I would say that for anyone that wants to live in more peace, love, and abundance, start to ask yourself the question, like, that person that triggers me, where I know I'm right and they're wrong, that's where you have to go. That's where the medicine is. Because if you could have the courage to understand that just the mere fact that you think you're right and they're wrong, just that alone is the mirror that shows you something is wrong inside of you, right? Because there is no right or no wrong when you're talking about someone else. Like that could be the greatest medicine that your life has been waiting for, quite frankly. Yeah.
Interesting. So you talk about aligning your masculine and feminine energies as a driver for success. Why do you say that? And how do we find a balance between them?
Masculine is the mind, feminine is the heart. I would say that one of the things that, Jen and I actually go deep into this in our recent episode is that we're starting to realize that, the truth is that we want to eliminate, the thought of, having a masculine or a feminine energy, and we want to eliminate the thought of balancing it. And the goal is to just be. Now, I can say that from the point of like, I had to go in through the labels of masculine, feminine, heal both of those, right? And understand what both of those are. But what you really want to do is you want to understand that, yeah, there are going to be parts of you that are visionary, that are problem solver, that want to get things done. And then there's parts of you that like just want to receive and sit back and have a conversation on the couch type of deal, without any worries. And that's okay.
The masculine and feminine energy side of things was a big learning for me as well, actually. And you talk about it a lot in a lot of your content, actually. And it's quite a defining label, actually, but a massively important one. For instance, I saw an Instagram story, it must have been 3 or 4 years ago now, and it said, by Carnivore Aurelius, I'm not sure if you've heard of him or not, but he's like, it's a meme account, it's brilliant. But he was like, when you see the world in masculine and feminine energies, everything changes, right? And I didn't know anything about it at the time. And I knew a lot of psychology, and I mean, it's a big area of subject for me. And I knew John Gray that wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus, but never defined in this way. I screenshotted it, this story, and then it just played on my mind. And then I started reading it, and I read many books, Mimi Icon and Alex Icon's book, Bingo Theory, I read, and, the masculine relationship, and all these books around this area. And it's just such mindset and relationship and business and all of these things, the masculine and feminine energies are just, it's true. Once you learn it, you can't unsee it. And it really does shape the world. And I would say in my relationship now specifically, such a guiding force.
Yeah. And then the next level is just to embody it.
And let go of the label.
But like we said, even with manifestation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like when you're learning, you need the label so that you can have awareness, and then eventually it just becomes.
Just be. So tapping into the masculine and feminine energies can improve our relationships, obviously. And for those of you that haven't really explored this area, you will see, we've opened the door now for you. On that note, you also talk about unhealed wounds, which we've already touched on a little bit today, which often stem from childhood that cause us to build toxic relationships with us as adults. What sort of wounds are these, would you say?
I mean, it's everything from emotional abuse to physical abuse to sexual abuse to not receiving love from your mother and father the way that your heart needed it. It's everything. It's everything that you experience in your childhood. Quite frankly, the way that it works is that generationally speaking, your great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents were a certain way with your great-great-grandparents, and they were a certain way with your great-grandparents, and they were a certain way with your parents, and your parents were a certain way with you, right? And that energy and the love that they will able to share with you or not share with you when you were born created a world where you essentially no longer trusted the safety of being in your heart because you didn't get the love that you felt you deserved and that you needed to receive. And these wounds get created, Some of them are as simple as just, hey, shut up when I'm talking, something like that. Something as simple as you made a little mistake and like knocked over a cup and like, you got a spanking because of it, It's a lot of that stuff, man. It's a lot of just unconscious behavior. So, going back to finding the one, you are the one that can heal all of it, not just for the generations before you, but more importantly, the generations to come after.
It's interesting. I remember Jen saying on the podcast on the Finding the One is you.
That's right.
And I was just like, my God.
That's right.
Like, it's pretty crazy when you look at it that way. And, I think for those of us that worked on ourselves a lot, you kind of know that. But when someone says the one is you, because when it's you, then you will attract that which is you of the similar vibration.
That's right.
So if we heal these wounds, what benefits do you think we can get to see in our intimate relationships?
Well, you no longer operate from those wounds. You no longer attract partners from those wounds. You no longer live in relationship from those wounds. You live in peace. You live in love. It should be, in my opinion, your life's number one devotion. Your life's number one priority is to go heal those wounds, because it will literally change everything about your life.
Yeah, same as my past relationship, which is what brought me to that. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
So again, a lot of people have to go through a near-death experience, for instance, where they go, wake up call, like I've hit the bottom. Now I have to rebuild myself. And then they, you see it with, Olympic athletes that have amputation, for instance, or something like that. They've hit absolute rock bottom and they build up from it. Now that we've already mentioned success isn't just about money, but we should talk about it a little bit. So what is the real key to financial freedom, do you think, from your mindset these days?
I think when it comes to financial freedom, we're all different and we all want to experience life in different ways. I think the real key is for you to understand what you want from your life, because someone could earn $100,000 and live off of, $2,000 a month and be financially free, right? I think it's all about like, you're the one creating it and you have the right to declare what kind of life you want to live. I think financial freedom is basically the ability to live life on your terms, so that, when another COVID happens or when, the economy crashes or whatever happens, you're sustainable and you're free to do things with who you want, when you want, where you want, and how you want them.
I love it. And on that note, Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for Finding the One podcast, especially, and everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A massive thank you to my guest, Danny Morel. Learn more at dannymorel.com. Check him out on Instagram and listen to his podcast, The Higher Self and Finding the One. You've been listening to the Health Optimization Podcast. I'm Tim Gray. Comment and leave the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel to see more. See you next time, and remember, let's spread the health.